In a way, video games and people have a lot in common. It's more fun together, over the years they get bigger and bigger, money gets more important. Well, and that's it. However, for this video, especially the second point plays a big role. Many games are huge now. If you just show the storage today's games require to some dude back in the 90s, this dude would probably think we would have flying cars and hoverboards right now, instead of dank memes. And with a great use of memory space comes a big butt game. And the biggest of them are open world games. Most of the time. And open world games aren't something rare nowadays. Actually, one could think that game developers seem to believe that a game with a big open world would be better than just a game with well-designed levels. And of course, you need some fast way to travel in these giant oceans of data. Like, hey, I'm trying to play a video game here. I already walk around and do nothing in real life. Developers have come up with a lot of ways to pass all these digital miles, with a beautiful mechanic called fast traveling. However, there are good examples for this, and there are stinky ones. So let's check them out, and I try to explain how I see the perfect fast traveling system. So let's start with example 1, the right to the spot method. This is the one Skyrim, for example, or Fallout use for fast traveling. And as long as you're not carrying too much, jumping or in the middle of a fight because you were lollygagging too much,
No lollygagging.
you can travel to any location you discovered, right in front of it. The problem here is, however, that Skyrim, for example, has a mark on the map for every single And you may think, but Power Coach, that's dope. I want to play the game, I have stuff to do. Waiting is boring and I need to get shit done. And I understand that, but see, this method ultimately creates laziness. Hey, some random person told me to beat the coins out of some bandit in this cave. Why the heck should I walk all the way? I know most of the landscape already. I get there, do the job and leave. But when you are making an open world game, the player should get as much out of it as they can. I mean, yeah, one day you have seen everything. And shortcuts are fine, that's what fast traveling is there for. But, again, it should be a shortcut, not a teleport. I mean, you still want players to move around in the world you've created, right? To be fair, Skyrim and Morrowind, for example, do have quite immersive methods of fast traveling, but I'll get to that one later. For now, let's take a look at another example, and I call it the anchor point traveling. This method is used by Oblivion or the Pokemon games, for example. It allows you to fast travel, but only to very specific points, like cities or in this case Pokemon centers. The good thing, you still have to spend some time in the open world until you reach your goal, and since your anchor point was most likely in a populated area, like a city for example, you can take your time to restore your items for example, or sort your stuff and all that. The problem many people see here is that you still have to walk a lot on foot, and most of the time the routes are not even that interesting. Especially in Pokemon games where there technically isn't an open world, and you have to backtrack the same way a lot. However, I think at least for Pokemon games this method is a perfect fit. Yeah, you have to backtrack a little bit, but with enough repels and a bike or inline skates, it's bearable. The games also do one other thing right, but I get to that later too. For now, let's talk about the last popular example of fast traveling in open world games. And let's call it the scattered method. Okay, I want to take a break and say sorry for these names, I'm really not good at this. My boy, good old Garrett of freaking Rivia for example uses. Here, there are a lot of markers on the map you can fast travel to once you discovered them. With this, once you already made yourself familiar with the open world and discovered a lot of awesome stuff, you always have a marker nearby your desired goal. So you don't have to walk 500 miles from Frank's pub in the city just to kill that one monster, but are still far away enough so you have to walk to your goal a little bit and explore the world. Or not even explore it, just, you know, be in it, in that open world from an open world game. GTA 5 is another nice example for fast traveling. You just call Pete from the taxi service, tell him where you wanna go, and he drives you anywhere you want as long as it is reachable for his car. This is not only immersive, but also puts a good use to your mobile phone, and it doesn't feel like teleporting. You first have to call and pay good old Pete first. However, it also shows that different games require different fast traveling systems. This one, for example, wouldn't fit games like Skyrim or Fallout, for example. Also, the way you move through Los Santos is completely different as in Skyrim or Witcher 3, for example. The whole map is built with moving with vehicles in mind. The way you explore Los Santos, for example, is completely different. And if you combine these two ways of fast traveling, you kinda get Metal Gear Solid 5, where you can travel to a lot of points that you already discovered, but you need to get your wingman Pequod down here first though. However, if you don't leave the map completely, you will actually have to wait in the helicopter, so better get some funny memes or podcasts ready first. But enough with this bull, time for some real talk! So how does, in my opinion, the perfect fast traveling system look like? Well, obviously it's all easier said than done, and just my opinion. Also, like I said, it can heavily depend on genre and game. For now, I will just stick to fast traveling in open world games, and how I think they should or could be. Number 1. Make the player deserve fast traveling. You shouldn't be able to fast travel once you found a few markers on your map, especially in the beginning. You want to explore the world. Let the player walk some miles, but make it worth it. Don't let him walk here and there just to talk to people. Maybe even make it a part of a quest. For example, maybe you can only fast travel in this world via teleporter, and you need to get a stone to use them first. Just make sure that the player doesn't get the object that allows fast travel too late in the game. Number 2. Give the player something to move besides their poor feet. A bike, a car, a horse, a donkey. Doesn't matter as long as you are able to travel a little bit without fast traveling in a faster manner. Number 3. Fast traveling points shouldn't be too far away from each other. Well, that speaks for itself. Don't spray the map with markers so that it looks like someone sneezed over it. At the same time, don't let the player walk or ride too much. Again, I know this is easier said than done, but try to find a balance. Number F. Like 4. Or final. Heh. Now this one's a hard one. It's a battle that is as old as video games. Gameplay versus immersion. Why does this 7 feet, 300 pound alien dude fall on his nose when I punch him in the back? Or like, how do I just regenerate Wolverine style after almost being turned into roasted almonds by some dude's plasma rifle? In terms of fast travel, I think it heavily depends on what kind of game you play. Making a medieval fantasy game? Well, maybe there are some carriages, signs or giant insects which can bring you to your next goal. Or maybe it takes place in our current time. Well, in that case, there are a lot of ways to get from A to B in the real world. So maybe you can find some inspiration from there. I know these points are no magic recipe that can create a perfect fast travel system for every open world game out there. But I think these are points you should at least consider when you try to create one. I think what it really boils down to is to not pull the player out of this world by turning traveling into a loading screen filled grind for quests. Especially in games with a sandbox like Skyrim, you can miss out so much fun stuff if you literally just skip your way through everything. But these are just my thoughts on this subject. Do you agree or disagree, or have a better idea on how fast traveling in games could be improved? You know the rest. Write it in the comments, let's have a discussion. You know what they say. The way is the goal. Keep your head up, guys. Power out.